Hello there, Brick Fanatics. Here's a question for you. What is the best LEGO set of 2024 so far? It's not an easy question to answer. 2024 is somehow already a quarter of the way finished, because time moves way quicker than any of us expect it to, but even in just the first 3 months of the year, we've been given a lot of absolutely spectacular, wonderful, beautiful LEGO sets from the LEGO Group. Even at this stage, it's difficult to narrow these down and pick, say, a definitive one best LEGO set, but I'd like to set you the challenge of doing just that. Head down into the comments right now and let us know your thoughts. What is the best LEGO set that we have had so far this year? That's sets that have been either released or revealed, not necessarily sets that have been rumoured, but just things that we've seen. Which one is your absolute favourite so far? In order to help you with that, I've compiled a list. I aimed at making a list of the top 10 LEGO sets of the year so far, and figured I could talk about those. Ended up with a list of 23, and that was me trying to be conservative and deliberately leaving some things off. So I'm going to try and narrow this down as I go, and just pick out the top 10 from my list that I think most people would agree are some of the best of the year. And hopefully this will just jog your memory and help you to make your own decision about which of these sets you think is the best we've had so far. Let's start with a recent reveal, LEGO 21348 Dungeons & Dragons Red Dragon's Tale. Now if you've seen my video on this set, you'll know that I was a little bit down on this one just because of the scale of it and the size of it, and the fact that I know a lot of Dungeons & Dragons fans who want smaller, more accessible LEGO sets. But I have to say that having really looked at this thing since making that video, I love the way that they've made this interactable, and they've included a Dungeons & Dragons game that you can play with this, so they've aimed to kind of meet the Dungeons & Dragons community halfway with this one, even if just the size of it will mean that it's inaccessible for a lot of players. Unfortunately, the size and the price of a LEGO set is one of those things where everybody will have an opinion on it, and some people will say, well, there's nothing wrong with having a giant set, and other people will say, I absolutely can't afford this, and there's no real winning in that debate because different people come at this with different opinions, and I'm going to try and mix up this list and not necessarily just cover really huge sets, but certainly if you've got the coin for this one, it does look like it's going to be worth it for fans of D&D in particular, especially if you're also a LEGO fan. Like if you're coming to this fresh, hopefully we're going to be getting a series of minifigures later in the year that will be a little bit more accessible for people who just want to kind of dip in and pick out little things and get a little minifigure for their D&D campaign. But if you're going whole hog and just building a giant castle dungeon with a dragon on the top that you can then play in D&D, absolutely, this is a spectacular merging of two different fandoms and two different types of creative play, and it just looks brilliant. The next one on my personal list would be 10327 Dune Atreides Royal Ornithopter. I mentioned this one in the video on Jurassic World rumours as an example, a rare example of a film franchise that is currently doing quite well in terms of just general widespread appeal and enjoyment, that has also come in LEGO form, and how this set started because the LEGO designers just really wanted to make something Dune related and thought that the Ornithopter looked absolutely brilliant, and so started work on this project essentially just as fans of Dune. And you really get that love here. You get the sense of passion and enjoyment and excitement that the designers had for this set, and how they went the extra mile in terms of both creating the swooshable fun mechanics of the Ornithopter in LEGO form, but also just giving you all of these minifigures so that you've got the full the full gamut of LEGO minifigures to accompany a Dune set. So if we don't get anything else Dune related, you've at least got Baron Harkonnen in LEGO form. Next up, 21345 Polaroid One-Step SX70 camera. I love the way that the Polaroid camera works. I love that it's got the photos that just kind of pop out and they just look brilliant. I love just the attention to detail on this set, and it's a smaller, more accessible one than the D&D set, which is just delightful, especially for fans of photography. I do also want to give a shout out to the Creator 3-in-1 camera that we got, 31147 Retro camera, because this one also tickles me. It does a lot of the same things but in a slightly smaller package, which is just it's fun to have these two different types of cameras in the Lego catalogue for people who want the super detailed Polaroid that's a little bit more complete and full, or for fans who just want something that's smaller and more play oriented, that you can just kind of wander around the house going click, 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 click and have fun. I mean, you can do that with both of them, but it's nice to have these two different options at different price points. Here's a fun one for Technic fans: 42179 Planet Earth and Moon in Orbit. A lot of LEGO Technic sets are vehicles in some form, and they often have really neat, cool mechanics, and they work in some tangible, tactile way. And that's all very nice and fun. But there are other uses for the gears and the levers and the pulleys that are capable in a Technic set. And this one is just delightful as a little model of the Earth in relation to the Sun, and how it actually spins around, and it makes excellent use of what Technic can do that the kind of Lego system elements can't manage quite as easily. It's a delightful little build, and it does show that not everything in Technic has to be a vehicle. I've got nothing against the vehicles that we've had this year. They're all wonderful in their own way, but just to see something so fresh and original and unique from the Technic theme, where normally it can get bogged down repeating the same kinds of things over and over, this one just tickles me in a special way. Right, now I'm going to risk the wrath of the comment section and feature a LEGO Friends set, because I like LEGO Friends, and I particularly like 42639 Andrea's Modern Mansion. It's a big, substantial building. It's got a wonderful design to it. It's colourful and inviting. It's going to look great as part of any cityscape, no matter what types of buildings you're generally using, and it comes with all of the original LEGO Friends. Now, this is not necessarily to say that last year's reboot of the LEGO Friends theme and the introduction of a bunch of new characters was not successful in its own way, but it's clear that there's still a love of those original characters, and having them all back as grown-ups and having them all vaguely successful in their fields and getting to kind of see the narrative progression of these characters. And Friends is definitely all about the progression of the characters. Like, that's the focus of the entire theme, one way or the other. So being able to revisit all of these characters, even though it's only a year after they were retired or kind of put out to pasture, is just delightful. They're back again, and that's fun, and it's no wonder that this set has proven so popular among LEGO Friends fans. Going to follow up a LEGO Friends one with a Ninjago one. Get ready, 71819 Dragonstone Shrine. I don't think anybody could have predicted this kind of thing from Ninjago. Ninjago does have often very large, meaty, substantial builds, wonderful kind of interactive play things which can take up a lot of space, but they're often not really heavily display oriented. They're intended for play. And this one feels more like one that can, yes, definitely be used for play, but its primary purpose almost seems to be as a display piece. I think to a certain extent it shows a maturing of the Ninjago theme as we get to a point where LEGO Ninjago fans can opt for something that, yes, they can play with, but also that will simply just look lovely on a display shelf. And I imagine that in the future we're going to be getting more of these Ninjago sets that are not necessarily aimed at an older audience, but aimed at an audience that don't feel the need to be able to break everything apart and get inside a play area and really kind of mash those minifigures together. This is one that works for people who can definitely do that, but who would also be very happy just having something to look at and appreciate from afar. I had to agonize over which of the LEGO Star Wars sets that we've had thus far this year to put on this list, and I went with the Millennium Falcon because it's probably the one that I think most people are going to be on board with, because the Millennium Falcon is by far the more popular of the ships that we've had at this kind of mid-scale thus far. I love just the chunky build to it. It's got a kind of a chunkier feel than a lot of other LEGO Millennium Falcons. It feels thick and solid, and it looks really nice for that reason. And hopefully if we go forward with more of these mid-scale ships for display purposes in future, we'll be able to get a few more different designs that kind of pair well with this one. Not to say that the ones that we've already had, like the Tantive 4 and the Invisible Hand, don't pair well with this one, but this one because of the shape of the Falcon, kind of takes up more of that space in kind of a compact package. It just feels nice as a shape at this scale, and it doesn't feel so zoomed out that you're missing some of the details. Everything is there on display. So it works very well for this size and this scale. This is absolutely my favourite of the year so far, and I don't necessarily think that everybody will agree with me, but I do want to highlight it anyway because I feel like it deserves a bit more love. 80113 Family Reunion Celebration. I've mentioned before how this set is absolutely the aesthetic that I love. That wonderful Chinese architecture, a lot of detail here. It works both as a play set and as a display set as part of a LEGO cityscape. It's got kind of the modular light design to it, where there's a significant amount of detail on the inside, particularly around the staircase, that you wouldn't necessarily see from a lot of the other kind of play-oriented sets at this size. And yet it's also one that's nice and open and accessible, and you can get the minifigures in and out and pose them, and it's playable as well. And so I think it works very well as a mesh and a merging of the two different sides of LEGO building. I found it very difficult to choose between this one and the Batman animated series Skyline, but I ultimately went with 76280 SpiderMan vs. Sandman, The Final Battle. And you can definitely see the pattern in this, where as I'm looking at these sets, I like something that works for display or for play, because this one, again, can be played with or can be added onto last year's Spider-Man Final Battle set to make that one even more complete. And I love the idea of an add-on or an additional kind of chunk that builds upon something that we've already got. And I would absolutely love to see more of these kind of after the fact add-ons for LEGO sets, so long as the initial plan isn't we'll make this and then we'll finish it later, which would be very disappointing. Finally, do I go with Medieval Town Square or do I go with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Cottage? Whoops, I've just mentioned them both, so they both made it onto this list. I couldn't stick to my rule of just mentioning 10 sets after all. Now, both of these sets have a fairly similar aesthetic, but go about it in very different ways. Medieval Town Square is all about the world building and the storytelling, and if you watch our designer interview about the set, you'll know just how much attention to detail went into making sure that the story of this set made sense, and all of the kind of the meaning behind which minifigures were included and which minifigures were left out. Also, of course, it's got a goat in it, and I can't not mention the fact that it's got a goat in it because it's got a goat in it. With Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Cottage, a lot of the world building and storytelling has been provided in advance thanks to the animated film upon which the set is based, and indeed the fairy tale upon which the animated film is based. So going into this set, you've already got a very clear idea of who the seven dwarves are and who the prince is and who this old woman is and who Snow White herself is and why there are all these animals just hopping around. And so as a result, the set is less about telling a story and more about communicating or kind of visualizing and realizing that existing story in LEGO form and being as accurate as possible to the story that is told in the cartoon. And definitely on that front, it nails it because it's got a lot of that wonderful little attention to detail that you love to see from a LEGO set of this type. That then is my list of the 12 sets that make up my top 10 for 2024 thus far. And apologies for not having been able to keep things to an actual number 10. So that being the case, what is your favourite set thus far from 2024? Let us know in the comments down below. Now make sure also, by the way, that you do all of the rest of the YouTube things, give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe and the notification bell if you have not already done so. Make sure if you are going to be making a lego.com purchase, if any of the sets on this list have inspired you to buy something, that you do so using the affiliate link, which is down in the description, or the QR code, which is currently on screen. Using these just helps to support Brick Fanatics. We get a little bit of a kickback when you make that purchase. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does mean the world to us. Make sure also that you go to brickfanatics.com for all of your LEGO news and reviews, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you for watching.